How we doing, friends? My name is Jesse and welcome back to Male Nurse Mentor. Today I'm going to teach you guys about the pre-nursing blueprint, which is the process that I've used in my own pre-nursing journey and continues to be the process that I use when working with pre-nursing students trying to get into a nursing program. So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down what exactly is this pre-nursing blueprint and why it's important, giving you guys the step-by-step process, diving into detail of those steps, and then towards the end of the video, giving you an actual example of how this actually works. So when you hear this pre-nursing blueprint, what I really want you guys to hear and understand is it's just simply this backbone structure to the path from start to nursing program admission. It is a process that helps you identify your personal route. I've thought about it a lot and ultimately I broke it down into 4 simple steps. Sure, each step requires a number of questions to answer for yourself, but in summary, you can look at this list and answer just these 4 questions and identify the path that you need to take. So this 4-step process helps you identify the best and most realistic path for you. It does so by getting you to ask yourself and answer those important questions that matter most. The questions that you need to think about and answer before you go and embark on this nursing journey. And why this matters? This matters because the nursing school arena is just so competitive, so impacted. What I always recommend for students here in the pre-nursing phase is to truly take this time to map out your actual path, so you don't make mistakes on your path, waste time, or have to alter your plan later on, because it only gets more difficult when you have to change something or pivot or go back and redo something. It gets a lot more difficult and it's a lot more costly in time. So the blueprint I'm going to show you guys today is an intentional way of simply sitting down with yourself, asking yourself those important questions, and really understanding your personal course of action when it comes down to your personal path to a nursing program. I do like to mention some slight caveats in my videos, which is most of what I speak about is through the lens of a California student. I was a California student. That's the process I know best. From what I understand, a lot of this does translate to other states, but I just want you guys to make sure, because I don't want to mislead you. So if you are out of state, out of California, just take a little bit of time and double check this for yourself. Or if you are stuck, you can also reach out to me. I'm very reachable and I'll look into it with you. I really want to be a support to you pre-nursing students, and the best ways to reach me, if you're wondering, are through an email, which is support@californiaprenursing.com, or very simply, send me a DM on Male Nurse Mentor. Just make sure you follow me, or just understand if you don't follow me, it's going to be in my hidden folder and it might take me a little bit of time to find it, although I do check that daily. A second thing, just in general, if you find yourself in need of additional support when you're working on this blueprint for yourself, I am working currently on a website where I will be providing a service to help you one-on-one with this blueprint. It's just not up and running quite yet, but it will be very soon. So an option is to check out that website depending when you watch this video. But if it's not up and running, go ahead and also just send me a DM on Instagram or send me an email and I'll also get back to you. All right, now with that out the way, let's begin. So step 1, friends, on this pre-nursing blueprint. The question I want you guys to ask yourself is ADN versus BSN. Which one are you going to choose? And you have to choose one, and I'll tell you why. If you aim for an ADN and later want to change to a BSN, it's going to be harder. That's why if at all you want to aim for a BSN and you're unsure about an ADN, go ahead and aim higher for the BSN, because you could always change your mind. In the process to applying for a BSN, you could still ultimately end up applying for an ADN. But if you only go for ADNs, it's going to be harder to then take those extra classes, increase your GPA at the last minute, and make yourself competitive for the BSN. So the 2 additional questions I have you ask yourself in this specific step here is, what is your GPA realistically, and realistically, how competitive are you in your application? Your GPA is going to matter more. Your TEAS test score is going to matter more if you're going for the BSN route. If you're going for the ADN route, oftentimes a lot of these schools are lottery based. So you just have to hit just their general markers, like a certain GPA, a certain TEAS score, take your prereqs, and now you're also just in this pool of lottery students. waiting to get selected, very randomized. So think about this honestly with yourself. This is a hard question to answer, right? Because we often don't want to look at ourselves and say, oh, we're not competitive enough for a BSN. But you have to be realistic with yourself. If not, you're going to be wasting time. If you're better aligned for an ADN program, that's okay. Just make sure that that's what you're aligned to and that's what you're going to go for, and that way you don't waste your time, right? If you have a low GPA, I wouldn't even bother going for the BSN. I would stick to the ADNs and just put your name in the hat in the lottery system. If you have a high GPA, you have a good T-score, you're competitive as an applicant, I would say go for the BSN. But this is question number one, step number one. It's the hardest one to answer, but it's very important because this question, when you answer it, it'll dictate which path you take, really, by a lot. It's like a fork in the road. So sit with this question, sit with this step, and think about it honestly. So once you identified whether you're going for the ADN or the BSN, step two is public or private. What I mean by this is the school. Are you gonna go the public route or the private route? Here in California, the public is the CSUs and the UCs, right? That's the school system. If you're going to private schools, well, there's a number of them. I'm not gonna mention any because I'm not affiliated with any, but you'll know what a private school is. It'll often be more expensive, but sometimes they do have some nice incentives in terms of speeding up the process for you. The public school, just by default, like I've said in my step one, is very competitive. So you have to think about this. This is another hard question. Another thing to consider here that I have students ask themselves is financially, what can they support? If you're going for a private program, it's gonna cost you a lot more. If you're going for a public school, it's gonna cost you a lot less, but it's gonna cost you more potentially in time, right? These are all trade-offs, they're all things to think about. That way you can identify the best path for you. When I think of the private route, I think of quicker and more expensive. When I think of the public route, I think of not as quick because it's more competitive and less expensive. Again, these questions are hard to answer, but only you can answer them. So think about it and answer it here at step two. So step three may also help you in answering step two. And this is the question of you sitting with yourself and identifying your support system. What is your support system like? Are you a younger student living at home with parental support? Or are you an older student living on your own, having to work full time just to pay the bills? These are some important things to look at. So that's why I have you guys ask the question to yourself, what is your support system like? If you're a younger student still living at home, that tells me you have time and you have financial means, right? If you still have parental support, you have a little bit more time to waste. You have a little bit more time on your hands. You can kind of play around with the public school system. But I also get it, friends, if you're on the other side of that, you're working full time, maybe it's a job change, a career change, and you don't have that extra time to kind of waste in this application process of waiting to get in year after year, right? For you guys, maybe it makes more sense to go the private route. So again, sit with yourself, identify your support system, and this step may also help reinforce your step number two. And here at the very last step, friends, that I've identified on this pre-nursing blueprint is step number four, which is the timeline. This part will change for everybody, but I want you to sit with this question. What is your timeline? And be realistic here. Like I've mentioned before, if you're a younger student living at home, going the public route may not be as costly in time for you. But if you're older, a career change, maybe your timeline is more narrow, it's shorter. You have to kind of get in and get out with this nursing program and get into the workforce. So for you, your timeline is going to look different. So sit with yourself, right? The thing that I think of here, if you're younger, I widen your timeline. There's no reason for you to rush into this. There's no reason for you to rush and jump into a private program. You're younger, you have time. If you don't get in the first year, apply the next year. If you don't get in that year, apply another year. You have time on your side. If you're older, I totally get it. Your timeline is going to be more narrow. Maybe you don't have that time to waste. The one thing I mentioned here is if you're really going through the standard approach of going through the public system, it can easily take you about 5 years to become an RN. For me, it took me 2.5 years of doing prereqs and then 2.5 years of the actual nursing program. So keep that in mind. And that was by going through the public system. If you're going through the private system, oftentimes they do have accelerated programs, and you could probably slice some of those years off by going through that route. Again, it's just going to be costly. Friends, you're going to see a little bit different now. I want to give you guys an example. The example that I want to give you guys is mine my own on how I did it. I went to a BSN. I used this same blueprint. I just didn't know it at the time, and now I'm trying to share it with you guys. So for me, I started at a community college. I knew I was going to go for the BSN, so I knew I was going to be a transfer student. I also knew I was going the public route because I was younger, I had financial support, I had time, right? Had time to apply, not get in and apply again. So for me, I was aiming high for the BSN. I went the public route starting at a community college. My support, I had a support system. I was around 18 years old when I started this pre-nursing journey. I was living at home with my parents, and I had that big leg up, which I understand is a leg up. So if you're young, leverage that support system, because as you get older, you're not going to have it and things are going to be harder. Trust me. For the people that are trying to be nurses and they don't have that support system, tell me, leave a comment down below how much you feel it. You feel it, it's a lot more difficult. So for the young students, lean on that support system. That's a golden ticket. And as far as the timeline, like I said, I started my pre-nursing journey at the age of 18 as soon as I graduated high school. I just started at a community college. My timeline was whatever it needed to be. I took 2.5 years to complete my prereqs at the community college, and it took 2.5 years to also kind of get into the nursing program, right? I finished my prereqs in 2 years. It took me about half a year to get into a nursing program. 2 rounds of applications, spring and fall. But I finally got in the fall, and that was it. I finally got in, and then I was 2.5 years in the nursing program at Chico State here in California, and then that was it. I was done. So that's going to be it, friends. These are 4 steps. It may seem simple, but these are hard questions to answer. But you do have to answer them, because I don't want to see you guys just treading water and not getting any traction on this path from start to nursing school admission. I want you guys to get that traction, get into those programs, and not waste time. Just know it is competitive, it is difficult, these schools are impacted, so the more clear your blueprint is, clearer your path will be, and the best chance you'll have of getting into one of these schools. As mentioned earlier in the video, friends, if you have any questions, any additional questions on this step-by-step process, reach out to me. I'm here, I'm very reachable, and I'm always here as a support for you, because I want to see you guys succeed. And with that said, friends, I'll see you guys on the next video.